Browns versus the Giants. It's one of them games where you're favored, you should win, but you're nervous about it because it ain't because you think you're gonna lose to the Giants, Cole. It's that you thinking about what happens if you do lose to the Giants and what the discourse gonna be like if you drop a game to the Giants. And it's the NFL, and you can get sniped any week. I expect that they won't. But do you have concerns going into this game versus the Giants?
I really want to put this into perspective before I even get into my concerns. The Cleveland Browns are 6.5 point favorites against the New York Giants. 6.5 points.
It's a lot of points.
That's basically them telling you there's no way the Browns should lose this game. It makes me nervous.
What's Kevin Stefanski's record against the spread though? Because I feel like he has a decent one. Well, with the spread,
Let me see.
we got to look that up.
We do gotta look that
But
up.
I get what you're saying though. It makes you nervous when a Browns team
Is that
has
favored?
is favored. Now, I will keep in mind this is not like in 2018 when the Browns would be favored. It's like it's the first time the Browns have been favored since 2014. Like they've been favored before and won. Like
They
they've been
have.
favored heavily before and won.
But it just make me a little like, dang, that much? Basically a touchdown? Basically a touchdown. That's a little okay. But what concerns me about this game, it's really not even the Giants' offense at all. It's their defensive line, particularly on the interior, specifically Dexter Lawrence. He is what absolutely terrifies me because the interior of the Cleveland Browns offensive line has not been good through 2 games. They just have not been good through 2 games. And Dexter Lawrence is absolutely somebody who, if the interior of your offensive line is not playing up to par, playing up to their standards, he can absolutely wreck the game. And as long as
By
they
the way,
don't
I
let his
just
what
I just found the against the spread numbers and the favorite numbers, and you know what it tells me?
what
Vegas don't know what they be talking about, dog. Because like all of the favorite numbers for every coach are like 50% or below win percentage. And then the against the spread numbers are like consistently over 50%. Now, this is why Vegas spreads should not be your analysis of situations. Not saying that's what you're doing, because that's absolutely not what you're doing. But to people who just go with what Vegas sets as the spread, they go, that's my analysis. This is why it's very unreliable, dog. Sean Payton is 52% win percentage when he's the favorite. 60% when he's the underdog. Now, does that mean that Sean Payton is this underdog king? No. It just means they be wrong about this shit. Like,
say, man,
they
I'm a little
guessing.
nervous.
These are guessing numbers. But I get what you're saying there. But go ahead with the Thibodeau.
Yeah, it's the defensive line. I'm not even really worried about Thibodeau and Brian Burns on the edge because I feel like the Browns have played edges that are better than them. Even Jacksonville, like Trayvon Walker, Hines Allen, and Eric Armstead, like I don't think the Giants' edges are any better than that trio of guys that we just played. But Dexter Lawrence is a beast. He is a monster. He can absolutely destroy the game if Wyatt Teller, Ethan Posich, and Joel Bitonio, wherever Dexter decides to line up, if those three are not right and not on their game, that can absolutely make this game a lot closer and can put the outcome in question when it really shouldn't be in question. Is there anything that you're worried about with the Giants?
So one thing I want to see, I don't know if I'm worried about it because the Giants haven't been great at it, but the one thing I want to see is last week Deshaun played against a defense that didn't really shake up their coverages that much. The Jaguars play a lot of cover one, and they don't really change up shit. They play some too high, but they stick to one thing, and it was pretty simple. what they do defensively. The Giants play similarly, a little bit more variable than like the Cowboys did. So they'll switch up coverages a lot more. And I wonder, because we're still trying to figure out what happened in week 1 with Deshaun, because I don't think a simple solution is the answer there, right? I think there are questions you need to have answered. And one of those questions was like, hey, was it the too high thing? Like, was it they were in quarters and they were confusing you and you couldn't decipher it quick enough, and that's why you were hesitant with the football? Was it something mentally going on, or is it something about the football that you see there? I think you'll get a good idea for it when you see him go up against the Giants, because that's going to be another defense that switch ups their coverage a lot. And I wonder what kind of Deshaun Watson performance we'll get. And if he plays well, that would go a long way to me feeling a lot better about the quarterback position, because then we're clearing different hurdles of like, okay, what went wrong week 1? Is this replicatable? And if it's replicatable, what is it replicatable against? Was it the coverages? Like, I got to be convinced he is guilty until proven innocent in the fact of that performance was awful. And I'm just going to go and say, I need to check off every reason from a football standpoint that performance could have happened until I feel comfortable, right? And part of that was the coverages and the creativity with the different looks that the Cowboys gave you. I'm like, okay, I got to see you do well against something like that. Then I got to see you do well against something like that when the coverage, when the people doing the coverage are actually good, right? Because the Giants aren't good; they just do it. Same thing with like the Washington Commanders. So that's really what I want to see. Last week, he got a lot of cover 1. He got a lot of easy looks, and he was really decisive. Cool. But can he do that in these too high looks? And I know sometimes we use too high as a synonym for like any multiple safeties over top looks, because now we're calling cover 3 and cover 4 too high, right? Like, it's just become one of those terms people say now. But really, I need to see him against some of those zone-heavy looks where they're not going to just try to get you to get in pressure, and they're going to try to force you to make a quick decision against something, and to see if these choice routes can actually hit and do what they're supposed to do versus too high, because part of the reason the Browns are running these choice routes are because those are going to be things that could beat too high. Obviously, you want the Browns' run game to continue, but I have less questions about that. It's more or less for me, okay, can Deshaun Watson clear another hurdle of things that I thought went wrong with him in week 1 on the football field, and kind of ease my mind as the weeks go on? This is why it's going to be a multiple week process before anybody's comfortable with what happened with week 1, because you got to clear these things out before you can feel comfortable going anywhere with this if you really want to be right about it, right? So that's really what's on my mind this week for it. I know some people are concerned with Daniel Jones running the football, but sometimes this happens, Cole. When somebody's not good at a lot of things, but they are decent at one thing, we tend to be like overrate the one thing that dude's good at, because like that's the only thing nice we can say about that player. But in no world is Daniel Jones a better runner at the football than Trevor Lawrence. No. So at the Browns, and I was pretty encouraged by some of the like looks that the Browns were able to get there in zone, and what they did with Jordan Hicks, especially in the red zone against Trevor Lawrence to prevent him from scrambling. I was pretty encouraged by that. So I'm not as concerned about that as I think some Browns fans are. I know we run a lot of man, but I think the reason they brought in Jordan Hicks is because he could be a little bit more alert, sometimes be a spy, and then kind of chase, and you don't have to waste JOK being a spy, right? I think this is going to really come in handy when you're playing Lamar Jackson, because a lot of times you can't get downhill with JOK because he has to spy Lamar Jackson. But now I think you're going to be able to get some of that too with JOK while still being able to be safe there with the linebacker behind him. So, it's kind of the small stuff I want to see in this game. And also, I want to see the Browns offense put up points. We've been winning games like the Pittsburgh Steelers the last couple of weeks, but this offense is very expensive. We should not be winning games like the Pittsburgh Steelers. We should be much better on offense than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I want to see them start to show sparks of that they could be a better team than Pittsburgh is offensively. Because right now I'm not satisfied with how they've had to win these games from an offensive standpoint. Defensively, this is the first time they're not playing against a franchise quarterback all season. And I think they're going to be excited.
I mean, if just basing it off of last year, whenever they played quarterbacks who were, let's just say, average to not very good at all, especially at home, they just straight up dominated them. There was nothing those quarterbacks could do.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones should fall in that bucket of guys you should dominate.
Yeah. I expect them to, right? They're going to have the man coverage. All the corners are safe. And look, if you look at the passing numbers for the Browns, they're not that bad. And they played against, two of the more high-powered quarterbacks in the league right now. Like, they're not Pat Mahomes or, like, Josh Allen, but they are in that second tier of quarterback that the Browns have had to play so far. And I think going up against Daniel Jones, who doesn't do well under pressure, especially like their wide receivers. They got Neighbors, but if we have Denzel Ward playing a full amount of snaps, one guy I think I think that would be Malik Neighbors, like welcome to the NFL moment, because the one thing Malik Neighbors got is he got that burst, right? Mm-hmm. It's incredible. You know who else got that kind of burst? Denzel Ward. And the first time he tried to get away, and Denzel got that hand on his shoulder, and he like, "I'm right here, bro. Smack that ball out now." Like, he gonna be like, "What is this? What happened? How did he get here?" But yeah, I expect the defense to be able to play well. The only thing is like running the ball. The Giants don't really run the ball that well, so. And that's really the one way to attack the Cleveland Browns.
I'm trying to see who's their running back. That's what I want to know. Oh, Devin Singletary.
Yeah, they got Devin Singletary as their premier back, which, like, no disrespect to Devin Singletary, but like in the ideal world, you did in Devin Singletary's prime, not your main back, right? Like usually somebody in a heavy rotation. Which is crazy. They replaced Saquon Barkley, and they were like, yeah, we're going to get Devin Singletary and be all right. No, Devin Singletary is a good running back. He's had good games against the Browns. But he's just not your primary one, right? Even last year when he was on the Texans, you ran him with Damon Pierce, right? Like, you run him with somebody else. It's shocking to me that the somebody else they running him with is Daniel Jones.
I mean, when you pay him all that money, you got to do something, right?